Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Female Male Perspective with Tina Valiant and my co-host, Eddie Cunningham.
Hola,
Hi,
¿cómo está?
how you doing?
¿Está bien? ¿Y tú? Yo no hablo español, un poquito, que aprendo más.
No habla español, even though my previous name was Maldonado. No, never learned Spanish.
Well, that was all I knew. That was the extent of it. So I threw it all out there.
I can say muy bien.
¿Dónde es el baño? Very, very important when visiting Mexico.
Yes. So we are going to be talking today about a really hot topic out there that people keep chiming in about, and they want Eddie's perspective on this. And I would love to hear it as well, because it's a challenge that I've had in the past. And that is, why do a lot of men seem intimidated by successful women? So let's start it out.
This is going to be a good topic. This will be a fun topic. It'll be a very simple topic, actually. It's very easy. And I'm going to be real. So if you get your little tender feelings hurt, that's not my fault. I can only give you the information. What you do with it's up to you. Some of the men aren't going to like what I say, and some of the women aren't going to like what I say. But it comes down to this. This is the truth, whether you want to believe it or not. Men are not intimidated by successful women. Boys are. So women, stop dating boys. And I'm not talking about guys that aren't older, because there's a lot of guys I know that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, that are still boys. So you've got to learn to change your definition of what a man is. Just because he's older, just because he has some few years under his belt, and maybe he's had some hardships he's gone through, does not make him a man. And I'm telling you this, the truth is, no real man is intimidated by a successful woman. In fact, a real man wants a successful woman, wants an independent woman, wants a woman who knows how to take care of herself and can be a partner in him building his own life. Now, this goes on both sides. This is both the women and the men, because I'll be real. I got a lot of friends that are female that bitch about this and complain about this, but you guys keep dating the men. Why? Because you feel more secure dating the boys because you feel more secure doing so, because you're the one that's actually more in control. And you think if you take this man that you're going to save, which is really a boy, and you can fix him and you can do this and whatnot, you're going to be the one in control. And that is a farce, and it is a lie, and it keeps leading you. The definition of insanity is what? Doing
the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yes. So the only way you're going to get different results is if you do something different. The only way you're going to do something different is if you think differently. And I'm telling you, but the hard part is this: how do you tell the difference between a boy and a man? And I'm going to tell you.
That's a good question.
Let go of the physical. Stop looking at a man.
Let go of the physical. All right, so let's talk about that. What are some signs that a man has actually become a man?
The signs that he's become a man, or the signs that he's still a boy?
Well, I mean, okay, so let's go over the signs of if he's still a boy.
All right, let's talk about that. And again, I believe there's really 5 areas of your life that you have to have an equal balance of to be happy and successful: mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, and social. Okay. So if you look at those 5 areas of their life, you'll be able to tell if they're a boy or not. Each of those 5 things are made up of only 2 things: time and effort. Okay. So pay attention. And the funny thing is, this actually goes back the other way too, because there's a lot of grown ass women out there who aren't women. You're all still little girls. I'm going to be real with you. I'm sorry. Maybe some people would take offense to this, but honestly, I don't care. The truth is, there's a lot of females out there that think they're women, but they're still just little girls. You have to evaluate those 5 areas of life. And again, they're made up of time and effort. So what are they putting their time and effort into will easily dictate to you, or easily tell you if someone's being a man and actually being a woman instead of being a girl or being a boy. You have to have an equal balance of all them. So we'll just talk about it. If a guy is putting all of his time and effort into his social life, he's still a boy.
Okay.
Now you have to have a social life even outside of a relationship, even outside of a marriage. It's still important that you have a social life. that you get out and you experience things and have different people and different ideas and stuff, so you can continue to learn and grow and not become stagnant. Same thing. If they're putting all of their time and effort into just the financial side of things, honestly, they're probably still got some boy struggles that they're working on, or they still have some girl struggles that they're working on. You want to find someone, a real man, a real woman will have an equal balance and know how to prioritize those 5 categories in their lives. That's the most simple way to put it.
Sure. Yeah.
What do you think?
Okay.
Have you dated some boys that you thought were men?
I've even married boys. Like, I have this new philosophy. You don't have to marry them. Like, it's okay to say, like, I don't want to get married. I told you in the past, I only had one man break up with me, and he was a true man, and he broke up with me. And I think it's because like I told you before, I wouldn't let him help me with something, and he didn't feel like I could let him be a man. It was my first experience realizing, maybe I have to work on that. Maybe I'm being a girl in some ways, right? And I think it was because I wanted to be strong and tough, and I could do it on my own. And I don't like to ask for help. It's very difficult for me to say I need help with something, because I've always felt like I could really only depend on myself. Well, probably because I always dated boys.
And there's a feeling of security that might have come along with that.
Sure, absolutely.
That kept you in charge, that kept you in control.
Sure, absolutely, 100%. I agree with that. And I had to really work through some of that.
If you keep having something happen to your life over and over and over again, you are the common denominator. I'm not saying that to you personally. I'm saying that to you, everyone that's listening out there. If you keep finding yourself in the exact same relationship over and over again, you are the common denominator, and you are what has to change if you want to change the result of that.
Absolutely, 100%. And you and I have talked about that on a past episode. And I actually came to those terms on my own. Like, okay, I've had these problems in relationships. I am the common denominator in all of these. So it's clearly my issue, and I need to change things. And it's interesting at the same time, because when I was on online dating and all of that, and we're going to do a whole series on that. But one of the things that I put in my profile was, yes, I am an author. Yes, I'm a team leader. Yes, I'm all of these things. However, I have an awesome balance of life, and I do have time for somebody special in my life. Are you okay with a successful woman? It was interesting how many men, or boys, as we're going to call them, actually said, yeah, you've got too much going on in your life. Like, you're very driven. And it's not even that I put a ton of time into all of these different things that I do. I mean, when I write, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I write. It doesn't affect my relationships. It's my time, right, by myself. But it was interesting to hear what different men said. And then it was also interesting to hear, once they got to know me, we had a conversation and whatever, and they realized that I really do have a great balance of life, because I have amazing staff and other things that take care of the things that I shouldn't be worried about.
Yay, Katie.
Yay, Katie, yay, Mariah. Like, they're my girls. So, I mean, they run my world. They really do. They just tell me where I need to be. And occasionally I have to make decisions, you know.
I got my Stephanie.
Yeah, you got your Stephanie. I mean, anybody who has success in their life needs people like that in their life. It takes a village to run an empire. And it was interesting because they were like, I thought I could handle this, but you're on a different level. And they didn't have confidence in themselves to be with me in that scenario.
And you know what?
And it really came down to their lack of confidence.
Kudos to them for owning that and telling you front. Because I mean, they could have lied to you, which happens quite a bit. Where they lie to themselves and lie to you because they want that. And so they're looking up here and they're like, oh, I'll that'll bring me up. And so they try and do it. And that I've seen that a lot with women as well.
But Eddie, you've been in person with me. You pretty much know from the get-go you're not going to get away with lying.
Oh, you don't scare me. You don't intimidate me at all. You ain't scary.
But you know you're not going to get any lies past me. But very rarely do people actually try to lie to me at this point, because I'm looking in their eyes like, I know what you're thinking right now.
Superpower eyeballs that are just looking into your soul.
You almost look scary when you do that.
That's the funniest thing. I know this might be a tiny bit off topic, but I get that a lot. That I'm
Yeah, do
just
it again.
wait, which one? I don't know. I don't know what face you're talking about. I'm told all the time that I'm intimidating, especially when people meet me or when they see my stuff on social media and then they want to meet me in person. They're like, you come across so intimidating, and I'm just a big teddy bear.
You have a presence about you. I'll definitely say that. Even the first time I met you, I'm like, okay, he has a strong presence. Apparently, I'm intimidating. People tell me that all the time. I actually had to lighten my hair because my hair made me more intimidating.
That's what I did.
Yeah, it looks
When I
really
had
good.
my luscious locks, I was too intimidating. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just shave it off. We'll maybe be more approachable if I'm bald with a beard and a biker look.
Do you think that it's because a lot of successful women, I just had a thought. Is it because a lot of successful women have an ego about them and air about them that they're just better too? Is that a possibility?
Well, okay. I want to step back away from the whole women and men and maybe just talk about successful people.
Okay.
And again, not that I'm giving into the PC culture, but uh, that could be a perception of people of success, or that could be who they really are. I've met people who are successful that are nothing but ego and pride. And I've met people who are extremely successful, who are very humble, very down to earth, and extremely approachable people. I think it's all individual. And this is where dating is all about getting to know people. It's all about relationships. It's all about being open and being vulnerable and allowing other people to be open and vulnerable in return. It's about walking into something with an open mind and an open heart without trying to force your expectations to happen. One of the absolute best videos on relationships, and I think I may have talked about this in a previous podcast, but I would love to actually do a whole podcast just on this video. But it was Medea, Tyler Perry. He does a character called Medea.
Yeah. I
And
say Medea, but okay,
is it
Medea.
Medea? Yeah, Medea. Where her son comes home and he just got his heart broke. And I don't know, it's probably about 8-9 minutes long, but I've shared it with people that I've coached. I've shared it on my Facebook. I've shared it on social media several times. Anybody that's come out and talked about relationships, I share that with them. I even sent that to my kids to watch. But she basically talks about the difference between lifetimers and seasonal people. And just like the problem is when we get them mixed up. There's people that are just meant to be in our life for a season. And just like the seasons, they're supposed to come. We're supposed to enjoy it while they're in our lives, but they're going to leave and a new season's going to come along. It's an amazing video. So you got to look it up. Tyler Perry, Medea. And it's just Let Them Go is the name of it. I forgot how I even got on that subject. What were we saying? I just love that video so much. You had asked me. Oh, we had talked about like
about ego and
yeah, and it's I don't know. To be real with you, I've had so much happen in my life that I don't have a lot of ego left. And maybe we should just partly talk about what it is to actually be a man compared to a boy, and maybe that'll help women be able to differentiate.
Let's talk about that. I will share. There's something in my past that I get a little emotional about actually, and that is my second relationship. Great guy. We've talked about it before. I've always tried to be humble. There was a time where I did get egotistical in my life, not with him, but I definitely got arrogant at one point, and I got humbled because of that, because I believe the Lord comes in and humbles us when we need to be humbled and reminds us where we came from.
Well, and the truth is most people get into the ego side of themselves mostly out of fear and protection.
Absolutely.
A survival habit of I'm going to make myself be this strong person that doesn't let anyone in.
Absolutely. So I had noticed that he had kind of gone into a depression, and I had noticed that like there was alcohol bottles on the counter, and he went to bed with me, but then I got up in the morning and I'm like, are my girls drinking alcohol? Like, why are these sitting on the counter? No, he was actually getting up in the middle of the night and he was like having a couple of cocktails, nothing over excessive or anything. He's not an alcoholic or anything. And I went to him and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, what is wrong? There's something wrong. And I just want you to talk to me about it. And he said, well, I've been really contemplating a lot, like my life. And he said, you know, you're always pushing forward. You're always moving forward, and everything you touch seems to turn to gold. So as you continue climbing the ladder of success, you're up here and I'm down here. And he said, and I realized that I'm always going to be your plus one. I'm never going to raise to the level of where you are, because as I continue to raise, you continue going even higher. And I looked at him and I was devastated to hear this. And I was like, well, is there something that I'm doing? Am I saying something? Am I making you feel this way in some way? Is there something that I'm doing that's creating this feeling in you? Because if there is, I want to know. It matters to me. And he said, no. He said, well, and then I asked him the question. I said, okay, so you're feeling like less of a man because of this. And he said, yes. I said, okay, so I have to ask you this question. And I don't mean this derogatory towards anybody, but I really wanted to understand what he was feeling. And I said, so if you were married to a service provider down the street, not that there's anything wrong with that, but somebody that you considered not in the same career level as you, would you feel as more of a man? And he said, yes.
He's a boy.
Right. And I get that now.
I'm just being real.
And I get that now. But you know, this was the end of our relationship, because I looked at him and I said, well, I can't hold myself back.
Right.
For like, I can't. And there were times in our relationship where I did hold myself back from success because I was worried about how he would feel.
Sure.
And he said, no, he said, I don't want you to do that. It's just you. He said, you know what? It is what it is being in a relationship with you, but it's worth it every day because I get to come home to you. And I said, I'm going to have to disagree with you. Seeing what it's doing to you, you're drinking, you're staying up in the middle of the night, contemplating your life because you don't feel like enough of a man with me. And you already told me that that's never going to change.
Well, and
I love you enough.
That's the big part of it right there, was him saying, I'm not going to change that, because the truth is it all fell on him.
It did.
What his idea of masculinity was. I have zero intimidation of a woman that makes more than me financially or is more successful than me on the other accounts. I actually encourage it. I'd be proud of it. Now I'm also never going to be the subservient cuck in the background and I know that's the term people don't want to hear, is a beta male cuckold, which is really what a lot of, and we talked about that in an episode, the emasculation of men. A lot of men have allowed themselves to become these beta males, and they feel like they want to be alpha males, but they're just stuck in this cuckold kind of way of viewing themselves because they want something they're not willing to go out and get themselves.
Well, I looked at him in that moment because I loved him and I wanted him to be happy. I did. And I told him, I said, I disagree with you. It's not worth you always feeling less to be with me.
But here's the thing I got to point out though. And it was in your wording, and I just want to talk about your wording. You said, you know, I make you feel this way. The truth,
because that's how he gave it to me. So I repeated it back.
Sure. But here's the question for you. Did you truly make him feel that way?
No, it was his own internal feelings. But I was a lot younger then, and I wasn't totally secure in myself yet. And I didn't, you know, I mean, this was 11 years ago. I didn't know that. And I told him that night, I love you enough to set you free. Go be happy.
And that's good that you did that. It's good that you had the courage to do that. A lot of people, and oddly enough, it starts with our parents saying the words, you make me angry, you make me happy, you make me proud. And we start to believe, well, I'm in charge of their emotions. I'm in charge of their thoughts. I'm in charge of the actions that they do. And in turn, we believe that other people are responsible for and in charge of our emotions, our thoughts, and our actions as well. And that bleeds over into this conversation like perfectly.
Yeah.
He said you made him feel emasculated, or
Right.
I weren't his exact words, but he felt like less of a man. Well, the truth was that was his choice to feel like less of a man.
Right.
It was his choice to compare himself and give you that power and responsibility over how he felt about himself, valued as a man. And that's not, it's not a bash on anyone, because it's actually very common. But it is definitely one of the biggest blocks that sits in most people's belief systems that holds them back from achieving success in the relationships that they really, really yearn for. And as men, especially, we can't do that. And I mean, we can get into the whole emasculation thing again, and how society has tried to take away masculinity, and they got this stupid term, toxic masculinity. I get people want to use buzzwords to try and describe things, but masculinity, true manliness, true masculinity is absolutely not toxic. What's toxic is removing masculinity from a man. And what you end up with is these beta male cucks that are, trying to find their little way in society and stuff. And
I like the word cuck. What is that?
Well, we're going to get into, I think we're going to do a whole topic on sex later on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But basically, a cuckold male is a male that sits back and allows himself to be used and abused, and gives up his manliness to be controlled.
Okay, interesting. You use this term, and I'm like, what is that?
Sorry.
I've never heard that, but it like goes on the board.
There we go. Katie writing that in the background. Yes. So there's nothing wrong with being a man, a true man. There's nothing wrong with being strong. There's nothing wrong with being powerful. And I'll have to send a picture to you, but I have this art piece that's in my bedroom. It's about 7 foot tall. It's about 4 foot wide. It's a charcoal drawing. Absolutely beautiful. It's by an artist named Chadwick, who's a local artist here in Phoenix. And I ran across it a while ago, and I had just gotten divorced. I had zero money in the bank account. I had just opened the restaurant. I had to give everything up with the divorce in order to keep the restaurant. So I literally was flat broke, and it was $3,500 for this art piece, but I couldn't take my eyes off it. I kept staring at it. Lady walked up to me and she says, you keep coming back to this. Like, what is it about this like? And I'll tell her. So when I was in my early 20s, about 23, I had to live in a car for a while. I was actually homeless. Very, very, very humbling, humiliating for me. I had a job since I was 8 years old, and I had a newspaper route. I've always been able to provide for myself. It was such a humbling circumstance for me. And I never wanted to be in that position again. I was doing sales at this one business, and I was good at standing up and talking in front of people, and they would pay me to come in. I'd stand up, I would talk, I'd do the presentation, and I'd get like $35 at the end of the night, which usually is how I was eating at the time. And this guy comes up to me after it's all said, after one of the meetings, and he says, just starts talking to me, asks me about what I'm doing, how long I've been working there, asked me about some of the products, asked me about my life. And I was honest with him, and I told him, I said, yeah, I'm in a car. I chased a job down here, and I didn't have enough money to get an apartment, but I was working 4 part-time jobs. I was even donating plasma just to have enough money to try and get on my feet as fast as possible. And he's like, well, it's really nice to meet you. And he walks off. The owner of the office comes up to me. She's like, oh my gosh, you were talking to Bill. And I go, who's Bill? And she's like, he's the billionaire who owns the company. And I was like, oh, like, yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. And she's like, oh, I can't believe that. And I was like, because I've never really been one of those that got starstruck. People are people to me. Right. And but he took an interest in me. And one of the things he said, and to get back to this painting, is, and this was powerful for me. He said, a real man of success has no need to be a braggart. A real man of success has no need to speak of how powerful he is. Who he is speaks so powerfully that it doesn't matter what he says or what anyone else says about him. He's the kind of person, a real man, will change the energy of the room by walking into it.
Mm-hmm.
And a real man is humble. A real man is humble about it, a real man of success. And I'll send you a picture of the painting, but that's what to me, that the look in the old man's eyes says that he's been through enough, he's seen enough, he's done enough. He knows that no matter what comes up, he's going to go ahead and get through it, regardless of what happens. To me, that's what a real man is. And you don't even have to have been through a bunch of hardships in your life to be able to find that kind of humility and burn away that ego enough to be a real man. If you are prideful, if you are ego driven, if you seek the need and have the need for the approval of others, you are still a boy. You are absolutely not a man. And oddly enough, it's the same thing in women as men that changes you from a girl to a woman as it does from a boy to a man. So if a woman really wants to know if she's dating a boy or a man, just look at what is the difference between a girl and a woman. Where does that immaturity leave and a true maturity comes in? Because again, only an unhealthy girl is going to want to date an unhealthy boy.
Right.
So if you're dating unhealthy boys, it's not just the boys. You're going to have to look at yourself. If you have to ask the question, why are men, so intimidated? Well, because you're not dating men. Because
I think that's really important for women to hear, especially. But here's another thing that drives me crazy. There's a lot of women out there who want a successful man for all that he can provide and everything else. Yeah. And a lot of times those successful men work a lot because they're providing, they're creating, they're doing what they do. And then these women come back to me and they're like, well, he doesn't have enough time for me. I mean, I don't know what to do with that. The lifestyle is great, but I mean, I want him to be with me. I'm like, okay, which one do you want? Do you want the successful man that provides everything that you're asking for? Or do you want the man who has all the time in the world for you? You can't have it both ways. Successful people have things going on. Okay, they're moving, they're doing, they're creating, they're doing whatever they do. Doesn't mean they're a workaholic. They set aside time a lot of times for the people in their lives that they need to spend time with and want to spend time with. But
I was in a relationship recently, and I even had friends try to explain it to her, but she would get angry that my phone would go off at 2 a.m, 3 a.m. I always shut my phone off at night. I shut my phone off, I plug it in, I put it in the other room so I'm not, bugged by it. Occasionally I'll walk in and check just in case it's the restaurant or something that I need to handle.
Or your kids have an emergency or whatever.
Yeah. And she'd be like, why are you hiding your phone? Who's this texting you at 2 a.m? I'm like, it's a pissed off customer. They got a bad sandwich. Like, oh, well, why is she texting you this? Does she really know you out? And I'm like, what?
So Eddie, she sounds like a girl, not a woman.
No, I agree. I agree with you. But it takes a different kind of, it takes a real woman to be able to handle a guy that has actually achieved something, and vice versa. It takes a real man to be able to handle a woman that's actually achieving something with her life. And again, this doesn't mean that a boy at any time can't choose to step up and start becoming a man, or a girl can't choose to step up. Because I've met some wonderful girls who would have been amazing women if they had chosen to actually step up into that. And I know this is going to ruffle some feathers saying that, but it's absolutely true.
It's reality.
It is reality. If you want this, then you better be that first. You better be willing to step up and be part of it, not expect them to come back down and to your comfort level when they're used to operating at a totally different level.
Okay, so I'm a team leader of a real estate team. It is my job when they have problems to be available.
Yep.
That's my role. That's what I get paid for as their team leader, to be available if they have an issue. They don't call me because they just want to shoot conversation out. That's not what they're calling me for. If they're calling me, it is because they have an issue with the buyer, they have an issue with the seller, they have an issue with the negotiation, whatever the case may be.
Sure.
So if my phone rings and it's before 9 o'clock at night, I'm gonna answer it if it's my team members, because that's what they pay me for. Okay, at the beginning of my current relationship, that was an issue. It was in the beginning. Okay, then he went into mortgage.
And he's like, I get it now.
And my team members were calling him for their loans. So now if my phone rings, he's like, oh, you need to get that. Yeah, that's Shane, that's Linda. You need to get that. So it changes over time.
And it should, and a good person will do that. That's the thing, is you can't go into a relationship expecting everyone to meet everything that you want them to do. And it says a lot about your boyfriend that he has worked with you, talked with you, and both of you have changed and grown together. That's what actually makes a relationship. Not, hey, we've never had a breakdown. That'd be boring as hell to be in a relationship where you don't have things to work through.
It would be. And that is, when you first get into a relationship, it doesn't even mean boy, man, girl, woman. It just means things were different. And now if we're going to do this, we have to figure out a way to do this together and learn each other. And that was a big thing for us, is we had to learn each other. Whereas other people, I have two phones. I have two phones that are always sitting there. I have a personal phone and I have a work phone. Funny enough, a lot of people call me on my personal phone, even for work, but it's just the way that it is. And there's one day a week that I give that work phone to my assistant, Mariah, and she takes it from Tuesday night to Thursday morning so that I can completely check out on that side for the real estate side. Doesn't mean it turns off in other areas, because I have different facets of my business, but it's been an evolution for sure. And it's definitely comes down to communication and understanding, I'm not going to have my phones sitting at the dinner table.
Well, and one of the biggest difference between a boy and a man, a girl and a woman, is how they handle the things that come up for them. So I did get messages that were of a very personal nature. I've gotten unasked for nudes at women. It's funny because a lot of my female friends complain about the same things, and I'm like, yeah, I understand it. Like, no, you men don't. I'm like, yeah, we get the same things, believe it or not.
Yeah, I don't want a penis pic, people. I don't want a penis pic.
Like, thank God I've never gotten one of those, but we still get.
I'll send them to you just for the fun of it, because I get them occasionally, randomly.
We're good. Totally don't have to. But the thing is I have had females reach out to me and, ask me to go out, ask me to go do this, ask me if I'm single, blah, 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 blah. And if I'm in a relationship, it's still not my fault.
Right. You don't have control over what other people send you.
But what I do with it, I do have control over. So it's, again, if a woman is insecure, if a girl is insecure, if a boy is insecure, that's one thing. But what they do with it is what really determines whether they stay that boy or become a man, or stay that girl and become a woman. I had a relationship where it was all my fault. Well, you have to be doing something to encourage this. And it's like, no, I'm kind of a public person as far as my business life and whatnot. And I put my stuff out there, and, sometimes people just send stuff out like that. But how do I react? Are you going to trust me, or are you going to blame me for what everyone does? So if a woman messages me at 3 o'clock in the morning and says, hey, I'd really like to meet for coffee sometime, I really want to meet you, blah, blah, blah. How is that my fault? How do I deserve to get, emotionally get the crap kicked out of me for it? I don't.
No, the only way that you deserve that is if your response is, great, I would love to. When do you want to get together? And love those pics you're sending me. Okay, that was my ex. Yeah, like that's a justifiable angry moment.
So here's the thing on that. So I've had a couple of dating relationships where they wanted access to my phone so that they could make sure that I wasn't doing that. And
because there was such a lack of trust there.
Yes.
Right.
And I had not done anything to really earn that lack of trust.
Right.
And I'll be real, I gave in a couple times and said, here, look, go ahead. You can look through my phone. You can see how I respond and whatnot. But that doesn't mean you've got my access code and you get to go through it anytime you want, because now, again, you're back to that girl, you're back to that boy. If someone's asking you for that in order for them to take care of their own issues, you're dealing with the boy, you're dealing with the girl, and you need to basically just move on. I absolutely won't tolerate that. I tolerated that in a past relationship that was a very long-term relationship, because I thought that if I opened up enough, if I gave them enough access to my life, they would lose their insecurities, and it never happened, and it never will. People that are insecure have to deal with their own insecurities. It's not your job to fix them. If you find yourself doing that in a relationship, women, if you find yourself in a relationship doing that, you're dealing with a boy, you're not dealing with a man. And you either need to demand them to change, give them the room to change, or just absolutely walk out and let it go. No matter how good the rest of the relationship with, that's going to absolutely destroy a heart.
I have only been in one relationship, my most recent past relationship, where I literally started to feel like I was going crazy because I knew stuff was going on, but I didn't have any proof of it. So I started looking for proof because I wanted to be wrong. I really wanted to be wrong. That's the thing. I was looking for proof in the hopes that there was none because I wanted to be wrong. That is the only relationship in my life that I have ever felt the need for that. I have never been an extremely jealous person, never been second guessing myself, never second guessed the people that I was with. I had total and complete trust. The funny thing is I have been cheated on by people in my life. I was totally oblivious to it. Which isn't a good thing either. I realized that I had gone over the top. I had reverted back to a girl in that relationship because I felt so insecure because of different things that were happening in the relationship and things that I had allowed initially. And I had to take ownership of that. And you and I have talked about that. And I had to recognize that I had some sickness going on. I had become a very codependent person. My happiness revolved around this person. And with codependent people, the sickness is in their codependency, they're trying to control the outcome.
Right, for sure.
Because they want control over their own life. So they're trying to control the people around them. And I had to come to terms with that. I had to start dropping those tendencies. And even now, sometimes those things will come up in me and I'm like, whoa, I am not that person anymore. I recognize it, shut it down, walk away, right? But in my current relationship, we have an open phone policy because of his past and my past and whatever. That was a requirement in his world. Neither one of us have ever felt the need to pick up each other's phone and look through it. Not once. And we talk about that all the time, that it's nice to be in a relationship where you don't feel that that's even something that you would even question. But we don't have codes on our phone. We don't have any of that. Mike, look through my phone if you want to. I don't care. There's nothing there. And he's like, well, look through my phone. I don't care. And I'm like, I don't feel the need to look through your phone. And if I did, we wouldn't be together.
Oh, so one of the best marriages that I had ever seen, I'm one of those people where if I see somebody that has what I want, I have no problem asking them how they got it.
Sure.
And there was a friend of mine, her name was Susie Carter, and she is actually a consultant to people like Paul Mitchell. So she's a giant in the beauty industry, and she's absolutely dynamic. She's one of those women that when she walks into a room, the energy changes. If you're facing forward listening to another speaker and she walks into the back of the room, even without meaning to, you want to turn around and see who just walked in the room because the energy changes. She's an absolutely vibrant person. She's married to a guy named Bert, and how they met was her friends took out an ad in the paper because she wasn't dating, she was working so hard, that said, looking for my hunka burning love, please send picture of Harley. And they kind of did it as a joke, but then it was almost the same thing on the other side. Bert, a highly successful, very hardworking man, never took time for his personal life, but was a really good person. His friends saw that ad that her friends had posted and responded to it with a picture of his Harley, and said, I could be your hunka burning love and whatnot. So they ended up going on one date together, and they fell absolutely in love with each other. And now she's always around the most beautiful people in the world because of the industry that she works in,
Yeah.
and because people are automatically attracted to her because of who she is. We were all at dinner one night, and I asked her, I said, have you ever thought about cheating on Bert? Like, have you ever been tempted to even cheat, since you're gone sometimes for a month at a time from each other?
Mhm.
And I love the power of her honesty. She says, absolutely, I have.
Mhm.
She goes, I'm around the most beautiful people. I have needs that aren't getting met. She goes, that doesn't make me a bad person. She goes,
Right.
how I react to it is whether I'm a woman or a girl, basically.
Right.
And she goes, the way I react to it is, the first thing I do is I don't judge myself. Instead, I accept what comes up. I love myself. And I ask myself, what is it that I'm really missing? Because it's really not this guy.
Right.
This is what I'm
That's
looking
very
for.
temporary.
Yeah, that's not really what my fulfillment is. She goes, and then I choose to fulfill it with my husband.
Mhm.
And she goes, I will call Bert up and say, hey, I'm going to cheat on you unless you get here and F me in the next 2 days. And she was very blunt about it. And I love it, because that's the way she was. Absolutely made me die. And Bert kind of shook his head. He said, yeah. And she said, I'm kind of joking. She goes, but I will talk to him like that. And what does he do? He goes, babe, I need 2 days to finish what I'm doing here in LA. And then I will fly out to Spain and spend a couple of weeks with you reconnecting. So she doesn't judge herself. She doesn't tear herself down and create that cycle. And as a woman, she steps up and calls her man and says, baby, I'm feeling vulnerable. I'm feeling, a disconnect between you and I. And that's really what I'm craving. And I want you to give that to me. So we're going to have our breakdowns. We're going to have our temptations. We're going to have the things that come up for us. How we handle it in our relationship is really what defines us as a girl or a woman, a boy or a man.
Mhm.
I
100%.
when I was working around in the music industry, I was around some absolutely beautiful people, and I had plenty of opportunities, but I was never tempted, because I was faithful to my wife. I wanted my wife. I didn't want to share that with anyone else. And so people had asked me all the time, well, even when you guys had your breakdowns, weren't you at least tempted? And like, no, it wasn't a part of the man that I wanted to be. The opportunities were there for the boys to take advantage of that, but as someone who wanted to be the best man that he could be, I wasn't even going to entertain that.
It's interesting that you say that, because back in the days of my girlhood, as I'll call it, I call them the dark ages in my life, is what I call them. My second relationship and we were separated, and really did not anticipate us ever getting back together. We stayed married because my oldest daughter was very ill and had to be on Remicade treatments every month, and so she was on his insurance, and out of respect for her and me, we stayed married so she could stay on his insurance, and nothing more. I mean, we weren't having a marital relationship at that point or anything, but I started dating somebody, and it was somebody that he knew, which wasn't good. It was somebody we both knew, and like I said, I call it my dark ages. He and I actually ended up getting back together before the total and complete breakup. But it was one of those things where when I am with somebody and I am engaged with that person, it's not even a thought in my mind. I don't even see other people around me in that light at all. I've always been that way. Like, when I'm in a relationship with somebody, that's the person I see in that light, and I don't see anybody else and be like, oh yeah, I really like to go there, or I don't know, I'm not tempted by people in that way, but I understand that other people are, definitely 100%, and no judgment for me on that side. I have a hard time sometimes wrapping my head around it, because to me, my person is my person. That's the only person I see as my person. I don't look at somebody else that way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense. And that's really the way it should be. But too many people seek escapes. They seek temporary fulfillment over issues that they're having internally that are not temporary.
Right.
I was like that too, stemming from a lot of the trauma that I went through as a child.
Mhm.
I struggled sexually for years because of some sexual abuse I had gone through as a child from actually a female abuser.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I had to go back and rewrite those agreements. But all of my relationships, even after that, is I still had to work on it for years and years and years to change those agreements and find healthier ways to view sex, sexuality, and to view women. My mother ran out when I was a kid. I didn't really see her much from 4 up until about 15. I hardly ever saw her.
Wow.
I was very blessed though that my dad married an amazing woman who stepped up to be my mom and was a great example of what a true woman was. But those conflicting views on what a woman was, what a mom was, what a wife was, stayed with me until eventually I made the conscious choice to choose my mom's example over my mother's example,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, all these relationships come down to we're not flawless people. I will tell you that you are perfect. I absolutely, one of the worst lies that I think we believe in is that nobody's perfect. It's such a commonly told lie that we believe it. And I want to just offer this to our listeners is that you are absolutely perfect. You were born perfect. You were perfect. You've just been taught how to be flawed. And if you can learn to let go of the flaws, forgive yourself for the issues that the flaws caused in your life, let go of them and go back to remembering who you were as a kid with that innocence and that freedom, along with the wisdom of adulthood, you'll finally become who you were meant to become here on this planet. And that's something that I search for. And it's again why people are so surprised that I'm such a goofy person when they get me when they actually see me in person. People are blown away because they see me as this businessman. They see me as this speaker. They see me as this life coach, which I hate the term life coach, but they see me as all these things, and then they meet me in person, and I'm just this big nerd dork teddy bear guy. And it's because I want to get back to that. I want to get back to the goofiness that I did a post today on my Facebook, on my personal page.
I probably saw
A
it.
little kid, I went to a coffee shop earlier.
Yes, I saw that.
Little kid with a Spider-Man mask.
Yes.
Loved it. I loved it. Little kids just sitting there with a Spider-Man mask on, going pew, pew, like he's shooting webs at people. And then he goes outside and he's running and jumping onto the light pole and spinning around it and stuff. And the funny thing is we're sitting here as adults looking at that, going, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I love it." Blah blah blah. But then if you were to see a grown man do that, you'd be like, "What's wrong with that guy?
I
Why?
have to
Just a few
no.
years."
I have to say one of my favorite things because my boyfriend can be a real goofball and he makes me be a goofball, which is good because
Good.
I can be too serious, so I need somebody that kind of balances me out a little bit. And I guess I'm funny sometimes, so I don't know, but I guess I am. So we do this thing where we have an island, right? And then all of a sudden, we're like chasing each other around the island, around the house, and like ducking between like the couch and stuff and trying to get away from. I'm usually running from him. and, and he's like chasing me around, and then I'm sliding with my socks, like Jerry, like was it Jerry Maguire? Who was it? No, in Cocktail it was, and I'm like sliding across the floor in my socks, going like,
Oh, you are horrible with movies. That was
I
risky
am.
business.
Yes, Risky Business. That
At
is the
least you
one.
got it was Tom
I
Cruise,
mean,
but
I know it's
totally the
Tom
wrong
Cruise.
movie.
I watched Cocktail the other night for the first time in like 30 years, whatever. So no, but we're like super playful, or like I'll be standing there and like cooking dinner or something, and all of a sudden he'll put on some country music, and he's coming in as like the total character,
Good man. Good man.
which I never listen to country music until him.
Well, see,
But
that's what I was talking about. People have flaws to overcome. So it's good that you're listening to country music.
yeah. It's been an adjustment, but now I'm actually like learning the words and everything. I can even get down with it a little bit. So, we have that playful side, and that doesn't make him a boy. I think it makes him more of a man because
It
he's
does.
able to let loose and just be fun.
So let me say that what I had said earlier, because this is again the difference between a girl and a woman and a boy and a man. A real woman and a real man will be able to let go of the flaws that they were taught and return to the freedom of their youth, but retain the wisdom of the life that they've lived so far. That is what a real man is. That is what a real woman is. You can be goofy and childlike and still be a man. It's the immaturity where people get stuck in those awkward teenage years that they never effing grow out of. They just stay in it and they just keep living in it over and over and over again. And you see those people. You have friends that are like that still talk about high school as the glory days. Those are the ones that aren't able to move forward.
Right. And I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. So I think what we take from today and today's episode is this. You know, you and I both get asked all the time, why are men intimidated by me because I'm a successful woman? I have men say that to me on that side too, with women being intimidated by them because they're successful men. So they assume that they're controlling and bossy and like all of these things. Yeah. The bottom line is this: at the end of the day, if you're getting that from people, it's because you're attracting boys and girls. You're not attracting men and women. Yeah. So stop the same patterns that you're continuing to do over and over again. And one of the things I recently told Ed is this: if you find yourself dating the same type of person over and over and over again, don't just look at the personality of them. Look at everything. Look at what they look like. Look at everything that you're attracted to and try to go the opposite direction and see what happens.
Here's the power of that. And I love that you said that. The power of that is that the people that we are attracted to and the people that are attracted to us are the mirrors of who we are. Now, a mirror is not an exact replica of you. When you look at a mirror, it's a complete opposite.
Right.
So if you keep attracting this, this, and this, there's something in you that is this, this, and this that's attracting it. And you've got to figure out what that is. If you're attracting an abusive person who controls you, there's something inside of you that still wants to feed off of being controlled. And you, regardless of how much it hurts, or regardless of how much you go, no, it's not my fault, they're the ones that are controlling and abusive, you are still the one that there is something inside of you that finds comfort in that and allows it into your life. If that wasn't the truth, you wouldn't allow it. You absolutely wouldn't allow it.
I agree 100%. So definitely take a look at yourself. And I know Ed and I have both had to do this in our lives, but definitely take a look at yourself and figure out what it is, why you're looking for the same person over and over again. Recognize the fact that you're the common denominator in all of this. And you probably need to start looking for the complete opposite of what you've been attracted to. And I'm talking physically everything. And I will say this, and it's not the first time he would ever hear this. My boyfriend, Jay, is completely the opposite, even how he looks and everything, from what I have been with in the past. And I did that intentionally because I was like, okay, clearly what I'm doing over here is not working for me. So let's try something completely different. What was that?
I think he's been good for you. I'm glad he makes you listen to country music, chases you around the house. It's the way it should be.
And you know what is really funny? I look the complete opposite of what he is normally attracted to as well. He normally goes for the dark skinned, dark haired, brown eyed, kind of exotic looking girls, kind of like you, Ed, kind of the same kind of thing. Yeah, a little bit.
I quit. I give up. I don't have a type.
And I used to go for the kind of exotic looking men. In all reality, that's the truth. And here I am back in you know, we probably look like we could be a little bit like brother and sister. Like
back in Scandinavia land. That's good. Nothing wrong with that.
Got the Viking blood, like we're strong. Yeah. So is there anything else you want to add today, Ed?
No, just to recap a little bit again, if you find yourself being attracted to and attracting the same thing over and over again, it's something inside of you that has to change. And to answer the question, emphatically answer the question, why are men intimidated by successful women? It is a lie. Men are not, boys are. So if you are with somebody who is intimidated by your success, you are dating a boy, not a man. Same thing with the men. If you're dating a female that's intimidated by your success and what you do, you are dating a girl, not a woman. And they just, neither of those will fit into the life of a highly driven, successful person. Don't be afraid, no matter how much the other side of it is good, it's not going to end well. So do what's right for you, move forward with your life, be a lot pickier about who you let in, and kind of the vetting process, understanding those expectations ahead of time, and giving them the chance to work through them. And if not, letting it go.
Yep, 100%. So Eddie, how do they find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Eddie Cunningham. Instagram and Facebook both are at Edified Living. Edified Living is my main Instagram page, but it also is connected to my Facebook page. You're welcome to reach out to me, follow me on the pages, DM me. Again, we would love to hear from our listeners about your ideas on these. We don't care if you want to argue with us. We don't care if you have a different way of seeing it. Let us know how you feel. Let us know what you think. Definitely give us your questions and the things that you would like us to talk about in these episodes. And even if it's an episode we've already covered, if it's a topic we've already covered, we'd be happy to hear from you. We've got no issue going back and recovering more in depth a topic that you might want to hear more about. So please reach out to us, DM us on social media, and we will respond back to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. So you can find me on Facebook at, just look up Tina Valiant and you'll find me. You may have to message me and follow me because I can't accept any more friends. I think it's stupid that Facebook does that, where you have a max of 5,000 or whatever. I think it's ridiculous. So, and then you can also find me on Facebook. I have a page called, it's Book Finding Your Voice, and with the quotations. And we also have a private women's group in there if you want to be a part of that. Eddie is there kind of as the male spokesperson to answer any questions that might come up, or, and there's no men bashing in that group or anything like that, but it is only for women, and I wouldn't allow women to do that to men. So, and then also we have a lot of events coming up. Very excited about our first women's workshop. So if you want to find out more about different events that are coming up, look up tinavaliant.com and go to the events tab, and you will see on the calendar different things that you may want to participate in. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week with another fun topic.
Take care.